Hello and welcome to the second video of this tutorial series. In the first video, I explained the purpose of the series and gave a general overview of what you can expect to learn. In this video, we're going to create our application and walk through some general settings and features of the app editor. So let's begin. Let's start by creating our application. Now, since we have no applications on our application dashboard here, you'll see this red button in the middle that says Create App. However, once we have an application here, all of this text will disappear and this button will disappear, and we will have to use this button in the top left corner that says New App. So let's go ahead and click that. Now, as you can see, we have three options for getting started. We can build it from scratch, we can start from a spreadsheet, or we can start from a template. Let's go ahead and start from scratch. Great. So let's give our application a name. Task management will do. All right. You may choose to add a description if you'd like. It'll appear below the application name on the app dashboard on the application card. You may choose an icon. We've got a whole list here. You may also choose the icon color. We're going to go ahead and keep it yellow. And then you may choose an application header color as well. We're going to keep ours the default, but there's a whole list here that you may choose from. All right, go ahead and select Create Now. Great. And here we are. Our application has been created. This is the application editor, and we're going to walk through just the left side navigation here just to get you accustomed to the editor and where everything is. On the top here on the left, we've got the dashboard. This again is sort of just a repeat of everything on the left here. It's just another way of navigating. You may start here if you'd like. Below that, we have our forms. This is going to show all of our application forms. We can edit or launch into the form from here. This is one area. We can also create new forms. Right below this, we also have a new form button. Again, this is the other area. We can create forms. We've also got these three dots here, which just gives us another way of navigating the form. We can get directly into the form workflow, the form security, or settings, and we can also delete our forms from here. Now, below that new form button on the left, we've got one form. This is the form that was automatically created when we created our application. It was given a name identical to our application name. And selecting a form here opens up, this is essentially the form dashboard, so to speak. This is form editor dashboard. You can come in here. This is where you go to choose what you want to edit, design, workflow, security, etc. You can also see the accompanying views, emails, or PDFs for this form, etc. All right, moving on to views. This is where all of your application views will be displayed. You can come in here and edit a view, launch into a specific view. Again, you can add a new view up here in the top left. And we also just have a few extra options here. All right. Moving on, we have emails. These are all of your email templates to be used in workflow notifications, either automatically as a part of workflow or manually as an action button. We'll be creating an email later on in this tutorial, so we'll be returning to this area. PDF templates, very similar. You can automatically trigger them in workflow or manually generate a report. This is just where you go to create the templates for essentially how the PDF will be laying out. Below that, we have pages. Again, we're gonna touch on this later, but essentially a page is just a landing screen or a help screen or just a general dashboard for your application. We're going to be creating a sort of dashboard later on, so we'll be returning here. Navigation, this is your in-app navigation. When your app is launched, this is what the users will see on the left-hand side. We're going to come back and edit this after we have more forms and more views to work with, but just know this is the navigation. Below that, we have data migration. This is where you go to import data. Similar to starting out from a spreadsheet, it's going to be a CSV file, and once you import the data, you have the option to import it into an existing form that you've already created, or to create a new form from the data where it will try to map the column headers and the type of data in the column to specific field types. Below that, we have actions and we have triggers. We're going to be creating some actions and triggers later on in this tutorial. Below that, we have roles and users. This is where all of your application users will be added and managed, and also where you go to create roles for your application. We're going to come back here as well. We're going to create a role, and I'll just show you a little bit more on that later. App designers, this is everybody who has access to the editor as we are in now. As you can see, there's just me. It's always going to be the person who created the app. We'll start out as a designer, of course, and you may add designers here as you wish. Everybody else, every other user will not have access to this editor. API keys, we're not going to touch on this in this tutorial, but just know the options there. This is where you go to set up API keys for your application. Below that, we can launch our app directly right here. Right below that, we've got the appearance settings. This is where you go to customize or change the icon, application color, application logo. So the top left logo here, your organization will have its own logo, and then each application can have its own individual logo as well. And below that, we've got theme settings. This is just general color settings for the application. We're going to leave ours as default for now. Moving on, settings. Don't save, I didn't really make any changes. These are the general settings for your application. We've got the application name, description, search tags. Just make it easier to search for this application using specific tags. Categories, these are custom made by a platform super admin, and this is where you go to essentially choose which categories this application fits into. Below that, we have application notifications. We've got three options here. This is essentially just controls the flow of notifications while you're working on the app. If it's in production mode, it's going to work as it's intended, essentially. It's going to go to the recipient that it's supposed to. You can turn off all emails just to silence all emails if you're really testing out an email system. And below that, we've got test mode. This lets us choose a specific user to receive all notifications for the application. Let's go ahead. I'm going to put my name here. We're going to use that mode just for now. Once we're ready to publish the app, we'll put it back into production mode, or else the emails will not work. Below that, we have application status. Application will always start out as published. We can choose here to unpublish the app. The difference is an unpublished app will not show up to users on their application dashboard. However, it will show up to application designers. Once you publish the app, any users you've added in the roles and users section will then be able to see the application and launch the application from their dashboard. Copy application, again, just a simple copy button. It's going to copy all of the forms, views, templates, everything you've created for this application, create a direct copy, and you can choose whether or not you want to include a copy of all of the records as well. And then finally, at the bottom, we can delete here. This is where you go to delete applications. Now, make sure that if you do make any changes in any of these, go ahead and click the save button. It will usually ask you once you leave whether or not you want to save, or it will remind you that you need to save since you've made changes, but just keep that in mind. All right, moving on to the last one here, we've got history. This is going to be just a very general overview of what's happening in the app, who's creating what, and all of that. It's not going to get too specific. We do have audit history on, forms and records that does get more specific, but this is going to be just the general edit history of the application. Now, below that, we have the apps dashboard. This will just take us all the way back to the application dashboard. Again, now we have an application here. This is how it displays. Let's go ahead and click edit again, get back into our application designer. All right, well, that pretty much does it for the editor navigation. We're going to get into more specific editing, for example, form editing, view editing, email editing, etc. Those are going to be a little bit different, but this is just the general editor overview. Hopefully you feel a little bit more comfortable back here. In the next video, we're going to work on our forms. We're going to customize the form that's already there, and then we're going to create a new form, and then we're going to tie those two forms together. See you then.